Okay, it looks like it is 7 o'clock now, and I'd like to call the August 26, 2024 Planning Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If we'd all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Next item is the invocation. If you'd please all bow your heads with me, I'll pray. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to come together here tonight and meet on behalf of the town. We'd like to ask for your prayers over this meeting and ask for your guidance and directions in the decisions we make tonight. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. Item number 3 is the approval of the July 22nd, 2024 Planning Board meeting minutes. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review those.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept them as written.
All right, we have a motion for acceptance. Do we have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. On to the regular agenda item. It's the rezoning 2401 Merritt property rezoning. And before we begin, Meredith, I'll have to recuse myself on this one as I'm the surveyor of record for the project.
Okay.
And turn it over to Donnie for the handle the hearing.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Whoa, there goes pen. Okay. We'll go ahead and turn it over to planning staff, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. For your consideration this evening is a rezoning application, REZ 2401, the Merritt property. The rezoning request is for 148 acres located at 6200 Emily Lane. That is the parcel here. 1224 Rolesville Road, that is the larger parcel in the middle. And a portion of an unaddressed property on Lewisburg Road, that is the portion, westernmost portion of what you're looking at. The applicant is requesting to change the zoning from residential low to residential high conditional zoning district and general commercial conditional zoning district. The portion being requested for general commercial conditional zoning district is 7 acres, so it's a smaller portion of the 148, and they're the areas shown in the periwinkle color on the western edge and then along Rolesville Road. So with this slide, you can see the site is on the western side of East Young Street and Rolesville Road, and it's below 401. Just to help orient you, the Point development that is under construction is to the north, and Rolesville High School is on the eastern side of the slide. So along with the concept plan, the applicant is proposing a set of conditions of approval. And again, besides the concept site plan, there is a 6-unit limit for the townhomes. You can go up to 8 units as per the LDO. They have committed to the amenities being complete by the 400th building permit, and any lighting with active play courts will be shielded from adjacent properties. The applicant's committing to 4 mail kiosks, and the development will be age restricted for residents age 55 and over, and there will be no more than 525 units or lots with this project. As per our comprehensive plan, future land use map, there are 2 different future land use categories that apply to this request. The first one is mixed use neighborhood, and it's sort of the chocolate color. So the small parcel on Rolesville Road and then the larger one, those are part of the request. And mixed use neighborhood is that classic live, work, play concept. And the other parcel that's a portion of, that is part of this rezoning request, is designated as business park, and that is defined as creating areas of employment. As per our Community Transportation Plan Network map, Fowler Road is proposed to extend on the southern edge of the property, so that is the green dashed line where you see my mouse. And this golden dashed line running north-south is a proposed collector connection that is being shown in the concept plan with this rezoning request. Stantec, Matt Peach, who's here tonight, performed the traffic impact analysis for this project, and the study notes 4,690 total daily trips for the senior, adult, and retail uses that were looked at. And the study also recommends improvements for the 401 bypass at Young Street, Rolesville Road at the entrance into this project, and Rolesville Road at Fowler Road. And Matt is here to answer any questions you all have about the traffic impact analysis. When we look at consistency, there are 3 bullet points here about the consistency of this project. First, the housing types proposed, single-family detached and attached, do fit within the mixed-use neighborhood land use description, and those general commercial areas that are proposed add to that mix of uses and provide support for the residential uses. The proposed vehicular circulation network does establish the thoroughfare and collector connections noted in our community transportation plan. And with the Greenway plan, the proposed side paths establish pedestrian connections. Those are shown in our site concept plan as well. One note of inconsistency, the proposed housing types, single-family detached and attached, do not fit within the business park future land use designation. Remember that land use designation covers about 1/3 of this rezoning request. So, employment uses don't include residential uses. Again, that is a note of inconsistency. However, based on the elements of consistency noted on the previous slide, staff does recommend approval. In addition, the Town Board of Commissioners has said it's a priority for our community to have locations for age-restricted housing. One reason being, we did lose the Arden project that was going to be off of Burlington Mills Road. I think there was some disappointment with that going away. And in addition, our strategic plan includes an objective that encourages long-range planning to address growth concerns, such as the provision of having diverse housing types in Rolesville. So having age-restricted housing adds to the diverse housing options that we are seeking in Rolesville. This time I'd like to answer any questions you all have and then invite the applicant up to give a brief presentation.
Okay.
On the commercial zoning pieces of that, is there any restrictions that are going to be in place, or they can build anything they like in that commercial?
That's a great question. There are no conditions at this time that limit the type of commercial uses. I can say when the traffic impact analysis, the retail uses that were studied for that were pharmacy and I think strip retail. So that is something I'm sure you could ask the applicant about if there's something you think might not be a good fit within the age-restricted community. It could certainly be worth noting this evening.
Forgive me if this was stated, is the entire community age-restricted or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is the intent.
I have a couple questions. First one for clarity. On page 22 of the packet we received, the clubhouse build-out was at the 300th unit, and then on this presentation, and then later on in the packet at page 115, it was noted as 400th. Was that a change that was made after neighborhood meetings, or for what reason was that increased to 500, 400?
400? I don't have the packet in front of me, so I don't know which page is which. I will say the proposed conditions of approval that were included as an attachment do have the correct condition in there that
400.
the amenities would be complete by the 400th building permit. And I think the wording before, when it was 300, it said they would start. And after legal review of the conditions,
Okay.
it was recommended by our town attorney that the condition
Be
be
more absolute.
having to do with completion. So that's why it shifted to 400.
On a side note, I feel that's a little late to be doing that. I mean, out of a 500 home community to be starting those kind of amenities that
To be
late.
complete at the
Yeah.
400th building
Yeah,
permit.
it just seems a little late in the process, and I can't remember what our normal standard is. The other thing that was also probably due to the, well, this one might not be the same thing, but same thing where earlier in the packet, it says lighting on the courts would be prohibited, and then later it said it would be provided but shielded. So was there a reason for that change as well?
That wasn't added to the conditions. I'm wondering, again, I don't have the packet in front of
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
so it sounds like maybe the old conditions got thrown in there as well. So the attachment that includes the conditions of approval with the date of August 22nd are the correct set of conditions.
Because the ones that were mentioned earlier were changed to a red font as if they were being changed or highlighted or addressed or.
Sounds like a possible error in the packet.
Okay, all right. I think my other question is for traffic, so I'll wait for that one.
Okay. Or you're welcome to ask Matt if you would like to.
Yeah, whenever, I didn't want to have you jumping back and
Sure,
forth.
sure.
I was going to wait for traffic to come up and address that. Because if there are other questions for you, then.
Anybody else on the board have any questions for planning staff?
And you can ask me more after.
Yeah, I do have one more, actually. Was our Economic Development Department provided this plan and have a discussion with them about how much of the 10, 20 years for work that they're doing, was that considered?
Yeah, Michael McFarland has been involved with this project the entire time.
Okay, and he didn't have any concerns about how much of the future business park this project is going to take away from the stuff that he's been working on for so many years?
Referencing the commercial growth feasibility study?
Right.
Yes, that was done, and that was focused on creating more of that business park environment. I think our staff is looking at the comprehensive plan update that is kicking off on September 17th.
Right.
And we will be looking at the commercial growth feasibility study informing that work, and then doing
Okay.
additional community engagement. I'll do a quick plug for that. At Fall Fun Fest, we'll have a booth for the comprehensive plan update, and we'll be looking to get as much community input as possible.
Okay. Because that's a little bit concerning to me to see how much is taken away from that plan that we've been working on, or he's been working on for so long, and then, there's not much more land around, so it kind of worries about whether or not there's been some sort of visual, replacement for what this is taking away. Like, because a lot of the nice things about these kind of larger business parks is a continuity
Sure.
in one area rather than being thrown around all different places. So that is a little bit of a concern of mine, which is why I asked that question. Thank you.
Thanks. So, okay, Ms. Todd from American Engineering would like to say a few words.
Okay, all right, thank you.
A very few words. My name is Barbara Todd. I'm the senior land planner for American Engineering. Our office is in Raleigh. The first thing that I want to say is how grateful we are to Meredith and Michael and Michelle for their patience. We have been working on this for a long time, and they have been helpful all through this process, and we really do appreciate it. We hope that you will see your way to approving this. I will be delighted to answer any questions that I can. My colleague Jay Galise, who's a civil engineer, and of course Matt Peach is the traffic engineer, are here also to answer questions that you might have. So I'll be happy to answer anything if you have a question.
To the engineer, in between, I guess, the big square part in the middle and the back part, I know there's a pretty significant ravine with some very large rocks in that.
Yes.
Are you planning on lowering that, evening it, bridging it?
The biggest ravine is off the property. It's all the way to the
I saw
west.
it, Yeah,
Yes.
with the great big boulders.
Right. The grading on this is certainly going to be a challenge. And Jay and his civil engineering colleagues are working on the grading plan as we speak. Yes, it's going to be a challenge, but we've certainly faced those kinds of ravines and difficulties before.
Well, and part of my concern there, I know the property owners that are in the little pond lake that's just south of where I was talking
Yes.
about, they've had some significant runoff from the roads being done. So if you're grading in that area, right, especially if you can start blasting to because it's granite. I mean, you face it, that whole section right there there's exposed granite in there, that you're gonna change how that water flows, and a lot of that's gonna end up in their pond. So I don't know if you've talked to them yet, but I definitely suggest you reach out to them, because they're gonna have some concerns, because they've paid some money to get that dredged out.
Right, I understand, and we will do that. Thank you.
I got a question with respect to the west part of Harris Creek, because the Lyles property runs on both sides of the
Yes.
creek, and the plans that were submitted to us anyway, and I know they're all concepts, and I get all that, but there isn't anything west of Harris Creek. Is that simply because of the easement that's being left for the rest of Fowler Road, and there's nothing feasible to be built down in that other section, or is there any consideration to do something in the future on the west side of Harris Creek?
Our client does not have any plans to do anything in the future on the west side. It is, as you said, Mr. Schwartz, a difficult piece of property, and that is hard to get to.
Do you know if there would there be a condition willing to make sure that isn't developed or dedicated to the town for a park? Would that be a consideration you can take back to the client?
I would imagine that the Lyles family would be happy to talk with you about anything. That's not anything that we're part of, just because it's not part of the property that our client owns.
Okay. All right. I just worry about having something zoned without any kind of idea of what we're going to put there or what somebody wants to put there, because that whole west side has got a decent amount of property that can still be worked with. And like I said, if the understanding is there's nothing planned there because the Fowler Road easement is going to take up so much of it, then I would be interested in seeing what other kinds of things we could do with that. So,
Right.
because you're just going to take Fowler Road to Harris Creek and then stub it from there, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Significant gully right there.
Oh, I know.
I've walked that a couple times.
I've been back there several times. I'm very familiar with what's
Yeah,
back
it's
there.
like-
Oh, yeah.
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 Anyone else?
Talk traffic there.
No question.
I'm sorry?
We'll talk traffic now.
Let's talk traffic.
Let's talk traffic.
All right, thank you.
I guess we get to call Mr. Peach, right?
Good evening. My name is Matt Peach with Stantec Consulting Services. Very happy to be in front of you all again to talk traffic, especially for this development and very much on this road. I know traffic is a big concern. So we had just wrapped up the TIA kind of late last week, so you all may not have had a lot of time to review. I know the applicants had time to review, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'm sure there's a couple already.
Go ahead. We'll go over there.
Thanks. I noticed later in the document, I don't have the page noted, there was this discussion around the study that was being done or in process, I guess, around
Yeah.
that whole corridor.
Correct.
Where does that stand, and how does this affect that study?
That's a good question. I'm actually going to have to defer that one to Meredith, if you don't mind. The Rolesville Road, the Young Rolesville Averett corridor study.
Yes, actually, if you could give me a minute to look at a few pictures, I can better answer that. Okay.
Just from my perspective, really quickly, we just wanted to make sure that we put it in the traffic study, that whatever the findings were for that corridor study, that we'd like the applicant to be compliant with that. That's kind of the intent of that statement.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now, because between the point and this, you and the high school, you are now, I don't know how it's going to impact on the 401 bypass, because that's already backing up. I saw there was a free flow lane.
Correct.
Is that widening the 401? So there's a turn lane or free flowing lane in that gets backed up onto the 401? I'm just thinking, right now they're redoing the bridge on Forestville and moving the turn all the way up because somebody thought it would be great to have a left turn right there, and there's just not long enough piece. And I'm betting that's going to occur right there as well. And you're going to back that all the way up, and then getting in and out of the high school, and that includes this property, is going to be worse than it is today.
Yeah. So what we had noted in the analysis was that there was a long queue observed, right? So if you're traveling northeast on the bypass and you want to travel south on Young and go to the high school, right? That movement backs up quite a ways, right? What we found was that if we are not to add lanes necessarily to the bypass, but if we add lanes to Young Street, we can alleviate that backing up of traffic because right now those right turns have to yield to the left turns coming off of the bypass, and that's what's causing that backup. So if we add a lane and we allow the right turns to go into their own lane, the left turns can go at the same time, and we can have them kind of both flowing simultaneously. And that was the intent for that improvement.
How wide is that? The whole road is not long and wide enough to accommodate all of the cars that are coming in and out, right? And the point went in, did not widen the road except for the turn lane. So now you've got some turn lanes, some on. So if you're coming off of that, going south towards the high school, the people are in the one lane that's available to them to turn left.
Right.
Backs up onto the main road. People sit and it just backs all the way up past Quarry and sometimes all the way to 401.
So you're saying the left turn to get into the high school from Young? Yeah. So that's a known concern as well. This improvement would help with that. Because we'd be adding a second southbound lane, right? Folks would have a way to get around that.
Would that be part of this property, or would you already agree with, because I think that's the point of the point property.
So the property is along, kind of the frontage is along the point. Yep, so right-of-way would be a concern. We've not done any kind of engineering analysis to that in terms of how much property it would require from the point. But I would expect that there would be some right-of-way that would need to be acquired to accommodate that improvement.
And you'd also have to deal with the pond that's there, because that right-of-way, if you took that, you'd have to cut the edge off the pond or fill in the water to get the second lane in there.
Yeah, so there would be a lot of impacts, and there'd be a lot of engineering that would go into that improvement. But we thought it was a significant problem, so we wanted to make sure that we were recommending a solution.
And then there was 2 lights now, I think I saw in the study.
Possible.
We're recommending a light at Fowler, so that would be the new light. Other major intersections along the corridor have traffic signals committed through other developments, either the point or kind of others of the litany of developments that are going along the corridor.
Is there any plans to improve the bend around the corner if you're coming towards the high school from Nightdale, Wendell? Because if you put a light at the top, you got still the blind curve. The grading is too high, so you can't see around it until you get to the light. If this car's backed up, all of a sudden you're on top of them.
Right. So we had noted that the applicant should be providing adequate sight distance in the report. They probably haven't had enough time to contemplate how they're going to do that, but it's certainly something that we recommended. We knew it was a known problem, kind of just the various challenges at that intersection. And I look over to Barbara and Jay over there. I don't know if they've had time to really kind of wrap their heads around what is going to be needed there, but we recommended that they provide adequate sight distance.
Yeah, you got a little engineering to do there because that floods. During heavy rain, that actually during the last, they put a couple signs out because that section in one port is very low and it runs out on the road. And then you've got Fowler coming off, and if they're taking Fowler into the property, you've got a lot of blind spots.
Correct.
Sorry?
You talking about Mitchell Mill?
No,
Or the
Rolesville and Fowler.
Rolesville and Fowler. That's actually more reason to put a traffic signal in at that intersection because the sight distance is so bad. The alternative would be what you have now, which is a stop sign, and you're counting on the drivers being able to see all the cars kind of going by to make sure that they have enough space to make a safe turn.
Well, I was thinking just of the grading of that spot, because if their property where Fowler is going to be extended to, right, that's this road right here.
Yep.
If they keep it at the height, you'll never be able to fix that
Yeah, that's
grading correctly. So that's where Rolesville Road, right, Young Street.
Correct.
The original Fowler on the other side, that's when you get up at the top of the hill and bang, you're on top of Fowler.
Yep.
If you lowered the grade entirely, you'd have a better sight line. You have to get the DOT, right? But if you don't, then you're doing it later and you're blocking that entrance, which is one of your primary entrances, because Fowler needs to be fixed.
Correct, and that's a great point to make. And while we're on that subject, the other entrance onto Rolesville Road, this one right up here, if you can see the cursor, we're recommending that be a right-in, right-out, so limiting that access there. So the only full movement out to Young and Rolesville Road would be down at Fowler, so more to your point.
I'll comment a couple of other things too. I don't know if you were you?
Go ahead.
One of the things I know, because I remember we talked about this one time before about Fowler Road possibly needing a realignment so it doesn't have that angle. This is like making this angle even more. It's continuing the angular intersection, which 90 degree doesn't seem very safe to me. So I'm worried that although this addresses the future ideas of Fowler Road on this side, on the other side, I'm concerned about that maintaining a 2-lane road that has that angled intersection that will eventually be like Burlington Mills and be realigned and then be disjointed from this road altogether. So I have a little bit concerned about that. There's not really much room to comment on that unless you can think of something, but that's one of my concerns about how this current plan kind of fits together. But I had a couple other questions. And I don't know what page it is in your study because the studies come into our packet and I think they're offset by a couple pages. But on our packet on page 139, the diagrams that you have that show percentages about flow, traffic and all that, I don't understand how on one of them, when you're coming from the high school toward the bypass, it says 60% going onto the northeast bound bypass. I mean, that's the only thing you can do. I don't understand what that number is and why it's not 100%. Because I can see 100% going and then like 40% doing the U-turn, and then I get the numbers that say once you make that U-turn, you get 15% going into Young and 30%, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why is that 60% on that diagram?
So those percentages are total development traffic, right?
Okay, so if I can cut you off then,
Yeah.
so if you're taking 100%, you're saying 60% of the development traffic is going to go that way, and then 40% the other way, and then as you hit intersections, you start breaking that number up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So 100% of the cars on that individual movement have to make a right turn. There's nothing else you
Right.
can do. That's correct.
Okay.
But that 60% takes into account vehicles that would prefer to go
Mitchell Mill.
south to Mitchell Mill and then to get over to 401 that way.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Thank you, I appreciate that clarification.
Absolutely. Yep.
The other thing I wanted clarification on, because I'm, and I don't know if I'm reading all of these graphs right, because you've got a bunch of these tables in there that talk about undeveloped or no development, and then like no development numbers, and then you've got existing numbers, and then you've got some other number, and then you've got post-improvement, right? So you've
Yep.
got all those kind of tables in there. And I'm just trying to look at the bookends of this because we look at what we're currently having and then what it's going to look like at the very end. And if I read things right, it looked like the intersection of Young and Quarry Road, when with improvements, will go from a current C to an E. And on our packet, it's pages 152 versus 157. So there's 5 pages difference in your packet alone. So I don't know whether that's going to be, page 52 or whatever view. But Young and Quarry Road go from C to E in the PM. And then Rolesville Road and the new entrance to the Merritt property starts at an F, based on what I saw. And then I also got Fowler Road, and the extension starting at an F, and the Mitchell Mill drops to an F. I don't, and I think these were all PM numbers, so I don't know if I'm not reading it right, but it just seems really odd to see so many streets drop, and since that's against our ordinance, I then question why this is even in front of us.
Great question. So there's a bunch of different things there. So one of the ones I heard was, why when the development opens is Rolesville Road at the Merritt Property Driveway.
An F.
An F.
Yeah.
The reason that's that way is because we modeled it as the site plan showed, which is a full movement driveway onto Young Street. What we recommended is converting that to a right-in, right-out, and that improves it from an F to a B in the AM peak, right? The problem is that there's just not a significant number or frequency of gaps in traffic along Rolesville Road for people to make a left turn out in any reasonable amount of time, right? So when you see it opening at that driveway, the northernmost driveway,
Right.
That's what you see there, is that folks just simply can't make a left turn out, and then it kind of cascades, right? More cars kind of come behind it wanting to turn, they can't turn, so everybody just ends up waiting, right? So that's why that specific one opens at an F. That's also why we recommended converting it to a right-in, right-out, and then we go from an F to a B, right? With the intersection at Fowler, that's also correct, is that we're showing that if the development just comes in and does not make any improvements to that intersection, that it's going to be an F. However, if we install a traffic signal and make the turn lane improvements as we're recommending, we can get it to a C in the AM and a B in the PM, right? There's probably a couple of
I
others.
was looking at the numbers of after the improvements were made. I'm pretty sure I was looking at after the improvements were made, there were several E's and F's.
Those might be on the individual lane groups or the individual approaches to the intersection, right? So we report not only the overall level of service of an intersection, but
Right.
we also report kind of like what each approach,
The left turn, the right
left
turn.
the
Yeah, I
right
see.
turn,
Yep,
what all
yep.
of those are doing. And it's possible that there are some individual movements that operate with higher delays, but the overall intersection is operating at an acceptable level of service.
Okay.
And part of that is we're working in averages, right? So when we're talking about how we go about modeling a traffic signal and how we time a traffic signal, if a left turn only has 5 cars making that movement in an hour, right? It's okay that they wait a little bit longer, because then we can allocate that green time to the other movements at the intersection that have a substantially higher volume of traffic going through it. So there might be some lower volume intersections or lower volume movements or approaches that have lower levels of service, higher levels of delay, right? But the overall intersection is operating in an acceptable manner.
And then on the, thank you for that, on the idea for making the consistent right turn off of the bypass, how long is that going to stay consistent, and how long is it going to stay a dedicated lane? Because I worry that even with that dedication, because you got Quarry Road that comes up really quick, you got the first road to come into, which is the first road to come into, actually there's a road before Quarry Road, I can't remember, it's Century something, I think?
Century Farm.
Century Farm Road, it's a first road. But then you've got Quarry Road that comes up really quick to get to the first entrance of the high school. And then you got what we've already been talking about, all the other stuff that's already kind of been built out to spec.
Yeah.
That to get, so how long does that lane stay dedicated? Because
Yeah, so
you're going to have a lot of merging and
Correct.
mirror bumping
Yep.
going on.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. So we had recommended keeping that lane full and continuous until you get to the right turn lane that goes into the point, the northernmost driveway for the point at Quarry Road.
So it
that
would go all the way to Quarry Road.
correct.
So you could not come from the bypass and take a left into Quarry Road.
No, you could. You would just have to merge over a lane.
But you couldn't if you're taking it dedicated all the way to that to that intersection.
I might be using the wrong term, but, you know, we would have that channelized right turn funneling into one lane,
Yeah.
right? And then once traffic kind of makes that movement, they can then merge over. So I think what you're referring to is the potential for a weave movement, right? So if you are coming off the bypass and you're making that right turn from the bypass trying to go to Quarry Road, you have to get over a lane, and then you have to get over one more lane to get into the left turn lane to make that left.
Right.
If you are, at the same time, if you are coming from the north and the east on the bypass and you're turning left to go to the point, let's say, you have to turn left.
Right.
And then you have to get
Merge all the way over.
You have to get over one lane in order to get to the point.
Right.
That crossing of traffic is referred to as a weave.
Okay.
And what we try to do is we try to get enough runway, if you will, on the road so that folks have enough time and space to kind of move over in a comfortable manner, right? So to answer the original question, DOT likes to see at least 600 or 800 feet. For this, I think this is going to be about 1,200 feet in length.
Okay.
So it's pretty substantial.
And is that proposal to be all controlled by markings and not physical?
Correct. There'd be no physical barrier. It would be markings and signage. So the markings would be the dashed white skips, so
Right.
folks would know to move over. There would also be signage saying, you know, right turn lane ends, right? So we're signaling to drivers like, hey, if you're in this lane, you kind of have to move over if you want to keep going.
Okay. And that's a solid white line from the bypass until that 1,200 mark point? Or do you immediately start with the small white dots, hashes, whatever you call them?
There would be a short distance of solid white, but after, I don't know, maybe 100 feet or so, then it would turn into the dashes so that people could move over.
Okay, so it's not an extended white line to come with this concept of a dedicated turn lane. It's the
Correct.
standard,
Yeah.
whatever the standard is, you're not extending that.
That's correct, because drivers, like you said, drivers have to be able to kind of move over and come over as they please. But the idea is to give them enough pavement such that they can do it in a comfortable manner.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to have a lot of illegal lane change tickets issued if that goes through.
On the 401 bypass part, where I saw you extended the turn lane to a bigger distance, is that also going to be planned to move over? Because if you're turning east on the bypass, east on the bypass going north, I guess, sorry, you can't see because your sight line is blocked from the cars that are in the turn lane. So I can't actually see the turn, if you know what I'm talking about. If I'm on Young Street turning north to go on the bypass, there's the two lanes that turn.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to your left and watching the cars come up, if there's a car in the turn lane, you can't see anything on the other side of it.
Right, right.
So when they extend it, are they planning on moving it over so you can see?
I don't think that they're going. I don't believe that they would be moving that kind of stopping point over at all. I think what they would be requesting that drivers do is defer to the traffic signal that's there to give you an indication that it's safe to go.
Nobody waits for that signal.
I definitely understand that. Definitely understand that. Yeah, I do believe it's signed as a yield, so if drivers want to go, then they can, but they have to be able to see to go, right? So then you're getting into
traffic on that section, right? Because it'll back up as the traffic coming north is.
Mhm.
If there's a lot of people coming into that turn lane, it'll back up further because the red light stays longer because they want people going north-south,
correct.
right? Versus crossing over.
Correct.
So now you're backing up on the other side of Rolesville Road because people have to wait for the light because they can't see.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So say if you could move that over so you could see around it, you would alleviate some of the traffic at that intersection because you'd be able to see better.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree. For other projects, we had recommended that turn lane be extended to give additional storage, but that's not really something that we're recommending for this individual project. It's because it's been recommended for other applications.
This one the turn lane off of bypass extended? I thought that was part of this one.
We show it because the intent is for it to happen, so we take it into account in our analysis. But that's an improvement that is committed to by Broadmoor, which is the Woodleaf assemblage. There's a lot going on in the corridor, so we're trying to color code things in those figures to kind of differentiate from what one development's committed to versus another. So there might just be some confusion in how we're conveying that message in the figure.
Anybody have any other questions for Matt Peach? No questions? You good?
Not on traffic, no.
Okay.
I have
Yeah,
questions about the commercial, though, on the zoning.
Yeah,
Do we
okay.
want to restrict anything in that zone? Because technically, I could build commercial, and I could build a bar.
Yes, you could.
I guess that would, Matt, we appreciate your time. I thank you,
Thank
sir.
you all.
So, yeah. I guess, would that be, Meredith, would that be for you? They're talking about what can be built in the commercial zone? That would be at a later date, I'm assuming, when that
No, I think
comes, or now you have?
what Mr. Schwartz was asking was a reasonable question for the applicant to address if there's something you all think should be excluded from the list of uses that are allowed in general commercial. You're right, there are a lot of uses that are allowed.
What we,
And you can,
the intent of
just so
that.
people can hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. The intent of the commercial, it's called general commercial. I wish we could call it neighborhood services, because that's what we want to provide, is something like a pharmacy or a dentist or a beauty shop, barber, just neighborhood services for the people who live there. And you can see that we have separated the commercial uses so that the section on the west is located on a collector road that comes straight down from the point. So it will be accessible to those people too. There's enough room there for a restaurant or perhaps a CVS, something like that. Those are the types of uses that are our intent to locate. The commercial will not come into play probably for another 4 or 5 years, because most commercial builders don't want to build anything until the rooftops are up. So the rooftops are not going to be up here for a little while. So I'm thinking that probably in 5 years, we'll be faced with a decision about what kinds of uses. If you want to put restrictions on the uses, that is certainly your prerogative, and we would be happy to talk about that with you or the staff. But again, let me emphasize that this is primarily neighborhood services. They're only small tracts. I think the one on Rolesville Road is 4 acres. The one to the west is 3 acres. So they're, we're not talking about a Walmart here. We're talking about very small users and neighborhood services.
I don't disagree that the intent, but the intent is not what always can happen 5 or 6 years from now. So I'm happy to put restrictions like bars, vape shop type of thing, which are high traffic, especially in that kind of area. I don't know if there's anything else that anybody can think of off the top of their head.
I think if this ends up going to the town board, you're just going to have to do that homework and talk to staff and figure that out. I don't think we necessarily have to.
To the top of my head was just gas station.
Yeah, I don't
High
think.
traffic location. If you put that right on Fowler Road,
Yeah,
gas station,
I mean, between that
you'll
and.
increase traffic greatly
Sure.
for people stopping
Yeah.
and
Sure.
turning and trying to get on.
So, I just think it's something you want to make sure you address as a condition with the staff and before it goes to the town board, because I suspect they're definitely going to want to see something that's appropriate for that age group.
I appreciate that, and I think that's a really good suggestion. Thank you. If you have anything you want to talk to Meredith about in terms of the uses, please contact her and we'll work with her
Yeah.
to get that as part of the conditions.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jim, did I owe you an answer about the corridor study?
Okay.
Now I'm having trouble remembering the question, but I did go look at some things. Do you mind repeating it? And then,
So later in the packet, there was a talk of the corridor study for Rolesville, Averett Farm,
yes.
this whole section which is being built out, that the study was either underway or done. I don't know where that status is.
Oh, the Averett, the Rolesville Road corridor study was completed almost a year ago, and the TIA notes that study should be referenced if needed, and that's what I went and looked at on Michelle's computer. The closest recommendations in that corridor study, recommendations for improvement, are at 401 and Young Street and then by the high school. So there's nothing right by where this project is.
Well, the high school's directly across, almost directly.
Yeah,
across.
it's on that side of the road, nothing on this side.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I must have missed it.
You know what? I'm happy to share it with you all.
Love it, please.
Okay. Then you can, it's probably a good tool to have when you're looking at cases.
The big picture.
Certainly.
All right, any further discussion on this one? None? Go ahead and entertain a motion. Anybody make a motion?
Try to figure out how to word it. I'd like to
Mr.
make a
Chairman,
motion. Oh, good, Mr. Pierce.
oh, you want to go ahead?
Nope, I will bow to your authority.
I would like to make a motion, if I may. The zoning request is to change the zoning from residential low to residential high as a conditional zoning district, and a smaller portion, about 7 acres, to general commercial as a conditional zoning district. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve this application to change the rezoning.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a?
Can we add to that and make sure we add in the consistency statement as well? So you're just a little bit more that it's either consistent or inconsistent with the comprehensive plan.
You read that off there if you don't mind, Mr. Pierce.
Would you like me to read it over?
Sure. What you said is great, and then just tack on, yes, the second part there. Thank you.
Motion to recommend approval of REZ-24-01 Merritt property because the rezoning request is consistent based on the reasons set forth in the staff report. And I might add that the town staff has recommended approval.
Very good, thank you. All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have one opposed. All right, motion carried, is approved. Thank you. We'll turn it back over to Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Good job. All right, on to the regular agenda item number 2, TA 24-02, building height requirements text amendment.
Yes, thank you. Good evening once again. So the planning staff wanted to bring to you for discussion and put a text amendment about building height. And in the picture in the background, you can see I'm not quite sure what to call it, it's like the orthodontic and dental building, 101 and 115 Redford Place Drive. Just for reference, as we're thinking about building height, that building is about 52, or just shy of 52 feet, being 52 feet tall. And the reason it's that height, because that height wouldn't be allowed in general commercial, it was zoned and approved under the previous ordinance, the Unified Development Ordinance. So this is a portion of the building height requirement table that's in the LDO. I've actually pieced it together from the various zoning districts. And in our ordinance now, the maximum height for some districts is 35 feet, and then the maximum for others is 60 feet with sprinklers. And Chief Lawrence, I'm pretty sure that sprinklers would be required by building code, and we would have them put in the buildings anyway. I didn't think it was necessary to leave that in the LDO.
Right, you're right about that, correct.
So I was trying to get rid of some extra words there.
Okay,
So with residential low, residential medium, residential high, and manufactured home, the maximum height in all of those districts as per our LDR right now is 35 feet. In residential high, that district allows townhomes and multifamily in addition to single-family detached housing. And sometimes you see the townhomes that are a little taller than 35 feet. Sometimes it's nice to have a different product. Some apartments, if they're reasonable and approved by the town board, they might need a little additional height depending on the location. So the proposal is to add an additional 10 feet to the residential height restriction and make that 45 feet. And the inspiration behind this whole package is the general commercial zoning district. We have had more than one downtown developer or property owner ask us about increasing the height limit in downtown. And as I mentioned, that building at 101 and 115 Redford Place is 52 feet high. So that's a reference for you to think about as we consider this text amendment. So the proposal is to increase the allowed height in general commercial to 60 feet. And in case that sounds a little scary, it's worth noting in downtown, a lot of the parcels are small. So sometimes you wouldn't be able to get to that height anyway, because you have to think you have to park whatever you have floor space for, and you have to have the, whatever other requirements are there. So a size of a parcel is sort of self-limiting in what you can put on it. So putting it out there to get your thoughts and feelings about having higher buildings in general commercial. And then in office and professional, right now, the maximum height is 35 feet. That seems like it could be a good transitional district to add, the option to have a little more height in case we do get that business park piece in the future and an office user wants to go a little higher. That is something for you all to consider. And if we're looking at the mixed-use districts, right now, everything is 35 feet by right and 60 feet with sprinklers. And as we mentioned, that would be handled by building code. Don't need to mention it in the land development ordinance. So I think it would be reasonable to have this straight 60-foot maximum for town center and activity center. Those are the more intense mixed-use districts. And then our neighborhood center district right now is, again, 35 feet by right and 60 feet with sprinklers. That could stay 60, or that could just be 60 feet also, or proposing a potential for 45 feet to have that be transitional. So there's a range across the zoning districts. So now the lowest intensity zoning district would have a height limit of 35 feet, and the more intense ones, you could go up to 60 feet. So the intent is to have some variety or transect across our zoning districts. So what do you all think about building height?
I just have a quick question. I understand the striking out the sprinkler stuff. What's the second statement mean? Building heights above 35 require additional compatibility standards per section 6.2.3.
I'm very glad you asked that because I forgot to say that part.
Okay.
That section does not exist in the LDO. That is an old reference from the Unified Development Ordinance.
Okay.
So
All right,
it's useless in the LDO. So
Okay,
thank you.
perfect. Thank you. Well, I'll continue to comment then. I mean, I think it's, I think the height change is good, and I like how you're giving it some range, and so that there's some changing going on. I don't think I have any issues with the way that's put out there.
60 feet's the high school's taller than that, isn't it?
it is. High school, actually, with the penthouse on top is considered 5 stories, but it's just a tad over 60 with the penthouse.
I think these building height changes give a lot more opportunity for a lot of different mixes of uses to come in, and it opens it up for some people who want to do some nicer things.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, the parking could be a limiting factor on
Sure.
some due to the space, but there gives them an option, maybe putting a ground level parking,
Absolutely,
and then
absolutely.
and then stories above it as well, and get their space and get their parking in.
Right.
So I think it gives a good opportunity for a lot more mixes in the town.
Definitely.
No, and I have to say, I agree with it too. Like I say, our ladder truck is a 100-foot ladder truck, so 60 feet, we should be able to handle anything in a 60-foot range with that. So I think that's good.
That's good to know.
I would be more concerned with the accessibility, if you will, of the people who are staying there. You know,
Sure,
we have
like
had problems with.
Absolutely. Mobility
one
issues.
elevator
Yep.
trying to serve one building, and the elevator goes out, and then we're having to
Right.
tow or carry people down the stairs. That's not good.
That's not okay, right.
So I would defer the safety part of it to the fire department and the rescue people.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have concerns with trying to serve a building with one elevator going higher and higher.
That's a very good
You're exactly
point.
right.
Are there building code requirements that would trigger a second elevator or second means of access for the multiple stories?
I'm not well-versed enough in the building code to answer that. I hope there would be, and I agree with Mr. Pierce's point. I think it's important to be able to serve people with mobility issues, and
Fire guys shut down anyways.
Right,
The
You
elevator
have
gets
to,
turned
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
unless You got the key.
yeah. But no, a building with one elevator is definitely problematic, for sure. So, yeah.
can certainly research that and have that information as we move forward.
I guess it's something we could put in, if we did decide to make a motion to approve this, could we put in the, to
Yes.
look into the
Yes, absolutely.
options of adding a second elevator to buildings
Over a certain story.
over certain story or size building?
But if you had a size building, it was just 2 stories, because you had that sort of thing, do you need an elevator? But if you got 4 stories and you've got to do maybe you do need an elevator or a second elevator.
Yep. I think it's something worth looking into.
I agree.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? The floor will be open for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of TA 2402 LDO amendments to building height requirements with the additional research related to elevator requirements.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. All right, on to the communications section of the agenda. First up is the planning director's report.
Great. So our 2 meetings ago, we talked about the text amendment for age-restricted housing, and we talked about the case that was called PIN number something that was about the tidal wave site, but we weren't really focusing on that. We were just focusing on changing the property to general commercial to fit the Main Street vision. So both of those cases were approved by the Town Board of Commissioners at the August 6th meeting. And I'm not, some of my other staff team may have some other things to add this evening.
All right.
Would you like, I'll unplug.
You can stay plugged in, that's okay.
Okay.
Oh, he can't then broadcast, maybe.
Yeah,
As Tanner gets his laptop ready, the town has an infrastructure inspector. His name is Billy Clevenger, and he works in all of our subdivision projects and some of our non-residential projects as well. You may not know him, but he's around every single day. He is our boots on the ground guy in all of the projects going on around the town. And he gave us a development project update the other day in an email. And I thought this is really great information that we could share with you tonight since it's fresh. And I can't promise this will be an every month thing, but I think if we ask Billy, hey, around the 3rd week of the month, can you give me a little report here, kind of the status of some of these bigger projects, the ones that you drive by and see dirt flying, et cetera. This could be something maybe we regularly do. So this is great for you all to understand, because some of these projects you saw maybe a year or even 2 years ago, and now they're actually coming to fruition. And again, for the audience at home who may be watching this live or on replay, they can get a little inkling into a little summary of some of the projects here. So I'm going to go through, and Tanner's put together some slides here to accompany it also. So we'll start with one of the more visible projects, which is the Walbrook multi-use project there down on South Main Street. And as you've probably noticed, most of the hardcore Main Street road improvement work is done. I think all the orange cones are pretty much gone there, et cetera. We're driving on, sub-base, but not the final layer. Some of the paint is a little, the lane markings are a little ragged, but that is the basis of the Main Street improvements from about the old Burlington Mills portion all the way to Jonesville Road. And all along that area is, the majority of that land is going to be the Walbrook project. So this is a little marketing piece that the marketers put together for this project, but we thought it was a really good color rendering of the project. Gives you some sense of this. Pretty much everything on the east, or I call it the south side of South Main Street there, is full-blown under construction at this point. The townhome component there, Tanner, can you kind of hover your mouse over that if you have the ability to do that? Yeah. So all of that is getting infrastructure work, so underground stuff, stormwater drains, water, sewer lines, things of that nature, and even the outlines in the major road system throughout there are starting to appear. That's hard to see, though, as you pass by on Main Street, but it is coming out of the ground there. As you see, there's, I think, 3 buildings going vertical, the Publix building and 2 outbuildings related to that. The pond is really getting deep. If you can veer down there and you can see the walls of that, it's really getting thick and deep, which is good. And so some of the other lots there are going through some development application approvals for clearing and grading and so forth, which are the first steps to that. So really from Jonesville Road all the way to the tip here, near where Burlington Mills comes in right now, will all be under construction very, very soon. And so that's the main update there. There's still some planning work being done on the other side. The 7-Eleven lot there, you see their icon in the drawing. They have a site development plan, a couple reviews through the technical review committee already, and that's pretty much the furthest along portion on that side of Main Street. Moving to Kalis Falls.
Can I ask a question about that slide right there?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is that besides 7-Eleven and behind 7-Eleven? And you said that is a marketing piece. Is that a piece that is available for the public to see right now?
I pulled that off the internet today.
You did?
Yep.
Off of the Walbrook site?
CBREs. They're,
Crossroads.
I forget the name of the.
It's the Crossroads developer has it up there.
Yeah.
And isn't that the tidal wave and then the tidal wave, or is that further? Is that, I can't remember where tidal wave was
Tidal
going.
Wave Car Wash project is not
right
part
there,
of
okay.
Walbrook.
So they haven't figured out what they're doing between Bojangles and 7-Eleven or behind that yet, correct?
Not disclosed through development applications to the town.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But if it's on a marketing material on the internet, then it's on it. Then it's exactly that.
Oh, it's true if it's on there.
Yes. But I can confirm there's no further development application activity with the town for any other lots on that side of the street in Walbrook besides 7-Eleven.
Thanks. That's what I wanted to confirm.
Sure.
Have they given any indication of when they may be putting down some final layers of asphalt and maybe alleviating some of those pretty severe dips in the 401?
So that's a whole different project. That's not Walbrook. That's the the LAP project, the town, state, et cetera project. Don't know.
I guess
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. A couple of those temporary fills
Are there any
on some
plans to
cuts.
put a temporary remedy on those until they get the final layer?
I do not know what, by looking at the plans, that whole area, so that south or east side of Maine, that's not done yet, That's going to get wider. All that curb and that hillside is still
where they
gonna
made
go.
some of those, where they made some of those asphalt cuts to replace some storm, I mean, there's some pretty jarring holes in there.
And they're well sunken already, I understand. Yeah, I definitely know. The staff can make a mention to the project manager that, we all know that, we all drive over it, but again, my point was that side of the road is not in its ultimate configuration. The other side, you see the final curbing poured and all that stuff, so it's not changing on that north or west side, but on the east side, there's still a lot of work to do, and that's, those might be temporary patches for all I know. That might all be dug up and fixed again. But yes, but that is the Main Street project, not the Walbrook developers and their work. So our next project is Kalis Falls, which is south on the Rolesville Road, a little bit south on the other side of the road from the high school, kind of in the subject area of the rezoning we just heard. So this particular area is Phase 1, and maybe a little portion of Phase 2. And Tanner, why don't you go to the aerial? There you go. So that area in the red circle, that is that. So obviously a lot of land disturbance and a lot of infrastructure work going on. And the town does have a final subdivision plat for Phase 1 under review, and it's getting closer and closer to being ready to record, dependent upon their utility work being approved by City of Raleigh. So we will see. They're under construction on some other portions there too. I think phase 2 is actually fronting Rolesville Road south of there, but this is phase 1 that is the most furthest along.
They're blasting every day.
Down there they are? Okay. So that would probably be in phase 2. Well, I think that has to be in phase 2, where if they were doing blasting at this point. Let's see, what did Billy say about that one? They're doing some proof rolling of, I guess that's road base layers, and some curb and gutter installations. So that kind of sets the final elevation and location of curbs and gutters of the interior streets. And I think if you've driven down there, you've seen for a while there the storm inlets sitting there with kind of nothing around it, sitting in space. I think that's getting closer to being curbed and guttered and so forth. And so again, those edges of the road improvements on the west side of Rolesville Road that this project is part of are starting to come to fruition, and you can really see those happening as well. The Point would be the next, and again, another project we discussed during the recent rezoning application before you, a little bit north of here. Lot of construction. If you take the bypass and you drive around, you look over there, it's just one massive yellow brown dirt pile, right? But there is a ton of infrastructure in there, mostly in phases 1, 2, 6, and 9, which Tanner, kind of run your cursor over, those areas, and you can probably see the streets appearing. Yeah, so all of that area down to that, I think it's a big, large circle. Yeah, that's, numbers don't make sense, but it's 1, 2, 6, and 9. And that was what their first package of development was, meaning they're all in one kind of combined sewer and water pool or drainage basin. So that's going to be coming forth with 100 or so lots to be recorded, I think, very soon. There's been some alleviation of some sewage flow for that. And so the city of Raleigh has kind of blessed them for recording some lots there. So we're going to hopefully see that in the next month or two, and we'll see if we have some lots recorded in the Point before the end of the year. And if that happens, that's a little earlier than a lot of folks had anticipated for the Point, because there's a massive downstream project called the Harris Creek Interceptor that originally was the holdup for the Point being developed. But there appears to be some sewage capacity in the lines, and that's going to allow them to record some lots.
Mike, is there anything on the left side there for that, was it Genevieve's and that part of that same project? Is there any?
So on the other
dates
side
for
of the
that?
bypass, the project calls that Point, the Point North. In that area, that's 94 lots, single-family detached. No, there's been no activity. The town has not even had a pre-construction meeting on that area. So it is still just construction drawings approved. That is all. The next, we'll jump up to the Jones Dairy area. What was really conceived and known as Preserve at Jones Dairy Central. They've now added a marketing, or more proper term, of Prestley to that subdivision. There's multiple phases of construction, and if you drive by there, you see both single-family homes and some townhome buildings going up. So that is, Tanner, you want to kind of highlight, it's kind of left of that circle area. Yeah, right, the kind of the back tier townhomes are coming out of the ground, and then the single-family homes, all up in that area, right? Those lots are all recorded and homes are coming in there. And you can drive through that area if you like, and it connects to that other neighborhood there, so there's a little bit of a connectivity there as well. So that subdivision is finally coming together, at least on its west side there. Rolesville Crossing. We're going to dive back all the way down to the southern portion of the town. This is on the east side of Rolesville Road, and it juts across there and fronts a hefty amount on Mitchell Mill Road. So this project had its pre-construction meeting about 6 weeks ago, and they have started commencement of site work out there. I believe they have done some blasting, or have gotten their blasting permits and have done that, which is, of course, the first stages of development. This is a very old area. We don't have anything fresh enough to show you kind of land disturbance from the aerial photo, but if you drive by there, I think you'll start to see mobilization of machinery, et cetera. And our final project, so all of those, well, Walbrook was a non-residential project, but the other ones were residential subdivisions. The last one will be the Jones Dairy Storage Project. So again, we're out on the Jones Dairy Road corridor heading towards Wake Forest. The green roof building next to it, that is Jones Dairy Elementary. So this is about the last property in Rolesville's jurisdiction in this part of the world. The site development plan was approved, and a pre-construction meeting was held. I think there's been some erosion and utility work being done kind of along the frontage of the property. So if you drive by there and see a little activity, that's what that is. So that site will be turned into a self-storage site development as that drawing showed you there. Let me go back to the drawing. Yeah, there you go. So one large temperature-controlled building in the center, ringed by 3 or 4 outside buildings, which are not temperature-controlled. So that is the highlight of the major projects there. I could probably wring my brain and find a few others that I know about, but that's what Billy reported back on, so I did want to share that with you since we had the opportunity this evening.
Has Carlton Point started doing CPOs? The
CPO.
townhomes, the occupancy, have they started,
Yes.
that whole first phase is by the ABC stores already moved in, right? Mostly?
I bet most of them have had their certificates
Yeah.
of occupancy. I know that some of them did, the earlier ones closer to the single-family homes. It kind of worked its way in like a L. But yeah, I think those buildings are all done, and if the units haven't sold, they haven't sold, but I think they're free to be sold.
And then
I've seen
there was
residents
also a commercial development on the front across from ABC. How is that coming along, or what's?
I just communicated recently on that. The applicant is kind of waiting and seeing at this point. So they received comments on their first submittal back in October of last year. So it's been nearly a year, and they're kind of waiting and seeing right now. So it's not under review, but it's actually not, but it's not actively under review because they need to resubmit their site plan.
Okay. Do they have a time limit for that, or?
This topic
I'm
that
just
came up,
curious, just.
The LDO is a little weak on clarifying things like expiration or lack of activity equals, no intent to pursue, et cetera. Obviously, the town wants to be pro-business and not, be overly handish with that. But we'll see, by about 1 year mark, so in October, if they haven't kind of shown their cards or said, hey, this is the reason that we're not, pursuing this at the moment, but we have every intention to, the town will work with them as best we can.
Yeah, because that's a pretty nice spot, too, so I'd hate for that to be just sitting on if somebody wants to do
it's-
something,
It's either now or later. It's inevitable that will develop. It is, like you said, it's prime real estate.
That was a great report.
Yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
we appreciate that.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
Yep, thanks. All right, anything else from planning? All right, on to the town attorney's report.
I do not have anything to report. Thanks.
All righty, no report. Is there any other business for the board? All right, hearing no other business, we'll, on to the last item is adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
We have a motion for adjournment. Is there a second? Second. And a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, I've been back there. I just hadn't been back there in a while to know whether or not they were actually moved in.
Yeah, quite a few of them.
Were they? Okay, yeah. Oh, I know. Well, I went back there.